Alright, for problem numbers 1, 2, and 3, when I ask what you can conclude about the diagram, I'm just looking for a congruent statement. Something is congruent to something. Make sure you don't state something that's already given. You have to state something else. In this case, we're given that segment AB is congruent to segment DC. Now, we know that if the chords are congruent, then the arcs must be congruent. So, what we can conclude is arc AB is congruent to arc DC. Now, as far as stating a theorem that justifies your answer, we can just say, since the chords are congruent, the arcs are congruent. And that's the theorem. Problem number 2 is pretty much the same thing. But in this case, we're given two arcs that are congruent. So since the arcs are congruent, we can conclude that the chords are congruent. So the congruent statement should be segment AB is congruent to segment BC. Make sure you use the segment symbols to show that you're talking about a chord, not an arc. And of course, as far as the theorem, it's going to be the reverse of what we said in problem number 1. In problem number 1, since we were given congruent chords, we said since the chords are congruent, the arcs are congruent. In problem number 2, it's the reverse situation. We are given two arcs that are congruent. So what do you think we are going to say for our theorem? Alright, hopefully you said, since the arcs are congruent, the chords are congruent. Alright, let's take a look at problem number 3. Now, this is that situation where those three words are related. Do you remember what the three words are that are related when we have a situation like this? Hopefully you said perpendicular, bisector, and diameter. And the idea was that if we are given any two of these words, of these concepts, we know that the third one must be true. In other words, if we are given a segment that is perpendicular, if we're given a chord that's perpendicular and a bisector, it must be the diameter. If we're given a perpendicular diameter, it must be a bisector. And if we're given a diameter that's a bisector, it must be perpendicular. So, looking at this picture, which two of the three concepts are shown? This box right here shows what? Perpendicular. The fact that this chord runs through this dot right here shows what? Diameter. So we are given a diameter that is perpendicular. Therefore, we can conclude that it's also a bisector. Now, a bisector cuts something in half. So if this is the diameter, that means segment AD must be congruent to segment DB. And that's what we can conclude based on concluding bisector. Okay, so what you should have written down was, as far as your statement, what can we conclude? you should have written segment AD is congruent to segment DB. Now, when you write your theorem justifying your answer, you need to write one of those statements where you're mentioning all three of these words, starting with the two that you're given, perpendicular, diameter, and ending with the one that you're concluding, bisector. So in this case, you would have said, since we are given a diameter that is perpendicular, it must be a bisector. So all this should have been in your answer. This should have been on your first line, and then this should have been on the other line and below, justifying your answer.